You're like a workhorse, easy to ride, she laughed in front of everyone. Her voice echoed through the courtroom like poison in my veins. I clenched my fists under the table. The judge blinked twice. The opposing attorney shifted uncomfortably in his chair, but she just leaned back in her seat, that smug look stretching across her face like she'd already won. Savannah, my wife, the woman I'd built a home for, bled for, sacrificed every damn dream for. And now, in front of strangers, lawyers, even my mother sitting 2 rows behind me, she was mocking me like I was just some dumb animal she'd finally ridden into the ground. I hadn't planned to say anything that day. I was going to let my lawyer do the talking. But when she threw those words out like daggers, something inside me snapped. I stood up. Savannah tilted her head, smirking. But when I took off my shirt, not for drama, but to reveal what her lover did to me that night, the entire courtroom gasped. Bruises, purple, blue, still raw across my ribs. A long scar down my shoulder, freshly stitched. The result of walking in on something no man should ever see. It was 3 weeks before the circus. I had come home early from a business trip to San Diego. My flight landed 4 hours ahead of schedule. I wanted to surprise her. I remember texting her from the airport. Can't wait to see you. Hope you're home. She didn't reply, but I figured she was napping or at the gym. I should have known better. I pulled into the driveway. Her car was there. Good. The house lights were off. Even better, I thought I'd sneak in and wrap my arms around her while she was sleeping. Instead, I walked through the front door and heard music coming from upstairs. Not the soft R&B she usually listened to when relaxing. This was something heavier, faster, bass pumping through the walls. Confused, I crept up the stairs. That's when I heard it, her laugh. Not her fake, polite laugh for friends or Instagram stories. Her real one. Wild, breathless, the one I hadn't heard in months. And then came his voice. Damn, you're wild, Savannah. Shut up and keep going, she giggled. My chest tightened. My pulse raged. I stood frozen on the stairway, just out of sight of the bedroom door, which was wide open. And there she was, on top of a man. A younger man. Shirtless. Tattoos on his back. I'd never seen him before in my life. And there she was, riding him like she was chasing some twisted trophy. I wanted to scream. Fight. Die. But instead I backed up, barely breathing, and stepped on the loose floorboard I always meant to fix. Crack. The sound echoed like a shotgun. Her head whipped toward the door. Our eyes met. Time stopped. She didn't even try to cover herself. Didn't flinch. Didn't scream. She just looked at me, blinked once, and said, Guess you're home early. The guy scrambled, covering himself with a pillow. Man, I didn't know. I walked in. Calm. Too calm. You should leave, I told him. My voice sounded foreign, detached, like I wasn't even in my own body. He hesitated. Savannah rolled her eyes. Go, Jordan. I'll handle this. He bolted. And then she got up, no shame at all, wrapped herself in a towel, and walked past me like I was invisible. I was going to tell you, she muttered. I stood there, staring at the crumpled sheets, the used condom on the nightstand, the half-empty glass of wine on my dresser. I had never hit a woman in my life. And I didn't start that day. But God, I wanted to scream. Instead, I left. But that wasn't the end. That was just the first page of a war she didn't know she started. 3 weeks later, in that courtroom, after the mockery, after she called me a workhorse, after she said I was too boring to keep her entertained, I stood there half naked and let everyone see what her entertainment had done to me. A broken rib, claw marks down my side, and the scar from the beer bottle Jordan shattered when I confronted him in her apartment 2 nights after catching them. That's right. I went back. But not to beg. I went to destroy. She didn't expect me to show up at her apartment. Hell, I didn't expect it either. I'd spent the whole night sitting in my truck outside, heart thudding like a war drum, watching the lights flicker behind her bedroom blinds. Around 1 a.m., he pulled up in that piece of crap Dodge Charger. I waited 10 minutes after he went inside. I knew what they were doing. I could hear it. The rhythm of betrayal bouncing off those damn walls. I walked up the stairs, my palms sweating, knuckles itching. I didn't even knock. I kicked the door open. That flimsy lock never stood a chance. Jordan stumbled out of the bedroom, wearing just his boxers. Savannah screamed. Not in fear. No, it was annoyance. Like I was the one ruining her night. Oh my God, what is wrong with you? She snapped. What's wrong with me? I said, laughing like a man who'd finally snapped. What's wrong with me, Savannah? I just watched my wife fake an orgasm for a guy who probably doesn't even know her middle name. She wrapped the sheet around herself, trying to look dramatic. You're crazy, Damon. You need help. Crazy. I stepped forward. You think I'm crazy because I wanted a life with you? Because I paid off your student loans? Paid your dad's medical bills? You said you loved me. She rolled her eyes. I said a lot of things. That's when Jordan stepped in like he thought he was some kind of hero. Look, man, maybe you should just leave. I turned so fast he didn't see the punch coming. My fist landed square in his jaw, and he dropped like dead weight. That was the moment Savannah screamed for real. You psycho. You could have killed him. I should have, I said, voice shaking. But I won't. Because then you'd just cry to the cops and pretend to be the victim again. She stood there, chest heaving, mascara running, and even then, she looked at me with pure disgust. I never loved you, she spat. You were convenient. A stepping stone. You're like a damn workhorse. Easy to ride. Does what he's told. Never asks questions. I didn't hit her. I just stared. Numb. And then I walked out. I didn't go home. I drove around all night until the sun started to rise. I watched it through the windshield like it was supposed to burn away whatever the hell I was feeling. But it didn't. I didn't sleep. Couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her. With him. That towel slipping. That look of indifference. That laugh. The next few days were a blur. I filed for divorce. Changed my locks. Burned every photo of us I could find. Her lawyer called, asking for amicable discussions. I told him to go screw himself. But the worst part wasn't the betrayal. It wasn't even the cheating. It was realizing how long she'd been gone from me, mentally, emotionally, while I was still trying to fix us. Like a fool patching up a boat that already had holes blown through the hull. She started telling people I was abusive, that I controlled her. Me, the guy who once worked double shifts so she could find herself with yoga retreats and art classes. She painted me as the monster while she played the victim. And people believed her. My friends stopped calling. Her parents, who I helped put into a better home, blocked me. She posted cryptic little quotes on Instagram about freeing yourself from toxic love while still grinding up on Jordan in some bar downtown. I kept quiet. I let her run her mouth. Until the courtroom. That day, everything changed. That scar on my back? Jordan gave it to me that night. After I walked out, he followed me to the parking lot with a broken bottle and jumped me from behind. The doctor said I was lucky. 1 inch deeper, and it would have hit my lung. I didn't press charges. I wanted her to think she won. Let her gloat. Until that moment in the trial. When she mocked me. You should have seen her face when I took my shirt off. The judge's expression. The crowd in the back gasping. The cameras from the news station that caught it all. Because yes, the trial had gone public. She wanted attention. She just didn't expect that kind. She stammered. For the first time in months, she looked afraid. I didn't have to say much after that. The bruises spoke louder than I ever could. But I wasn't done. Because if she thought public shame was the end of it, she had no idea what I had planned next. I could feel the tension in the air, the stares of the courtroom heavy on my shoulders. Savannah, for the first time, looked uncertain. The bravado, the cocky attitude she'd carried for months, seemed to evaporate, replaced by a flicker of fear. I had taken everything from her in that moment. Her attorney, a slick little guy who probably made his living off shady divorces, shot me a dirty look. But it didn't matter. I had the upper hand now. The judge wasn't even pretending anymore, his eyes darting between me and Savannah, clearly taken aback by the display. Savannah's mouth opened, but no words came out at first. She shifted uncomfortably in her seat. You're making a spectacle of yourself, she muttered, her voice wavering. I couldn't help but laugh, a dark, humorless sound that made her wince. A spectacle? That's rich, coming from you. You've been the one making a spectacle of me for months now. For years, actually. I let my eyes flick to her lawyer, who was now nervously shuffling his papers, but I didn't care about him. I was done playing by the rules. The whole damn court knew the truth now. Everyone could see who she really was. Savannah's face twisted with anger, her eyes narrowing. You're pathetic, she hissed. You've always been pathetic. You're just mad that I found someone who actually cares about me, who knows how to treat me like a woman, not just a workhorse. I leaned forward, locking eyes with her. You've been lying to yourself, Savannah. You never cared about me. You don't even know what love is. You used me, and when I stopped being useful, you threw me out like a used car. The words hit harder than I expected. They had been building up for so long, just waiting to be released. And when they came out raw, unfiltered. I felt a strange satisfaction in that moment, a sense of closure I hadn't even known I needed. Her jaw tightened, her fists clenching at her sides. For a second, she almost looked like she might say something else, but then she bit her lip and stayed silent. Her pride had taken a hit, and that was enough. I stood there, letting the silence hang in the air. It was thick, heavy, but I didn't care. It was her turn to deal with the fallout now. Not me. The judge cleared his throat, breaking the tension. "Let's move on," he said, his voice flat, clearly tired of the drama. But even he seemed a little shaken by the spectacle. As the trial continued, I could see Savannah squirming in her seat, glancing at her lawyer for reassurance. The lies she'd spun for so long were unraveling in front of everyone, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. I wasn't going to let her twist the narrative any longer. For the first time, I was in control. For the first time, I had the power to finally walk away. When the trial ended, I didn't even wait for her to speak. I didn't want her to. She had already said everything she needed to say, and I'd heard it all. I walked out of that courtroom with my head held high. I didn't feel victorious, but I felt free. The weight of the last few months, hell, the last few years, was finally lifting off my shoulders. I didn't know what came next. Maybe I would rebuild. Maybe I'd walk away from everything. But one thing was certain. I wasn't going to let Savannah have the final word. Not anymore. I had been the fool for far too long. It was time for me to take control of my life, to stop being the workhorse and start being the man I was always meant to be. I couldn't fix what was broken, but I could damn sure start over. After the trial, I didn't go home. I couldn't. That house, our house, reeked of her. Every room was a ghost town of fake smiles, whispered lies, and those late-night moans that I used to believe were for me. Instead, I drove. For hours. No destination, just movement. The kind of driving where the road becomes a blur and your thoughts start getting louder than the engine. I must have replayed everything 1,000 times. Her laughter when I walked in on them. The smug smirk in court. The way she said, "You're like a workhorse," like I was beneath her. I ended up parked outside a 24-hour diner somewhere outside the city. Rain had started. One of those soft, endless rains that don't make a scene. They just show up and stay. I sat in that truck, watching the droplets chase each other down the windshield, and for the first time in a long while, I let myself feel it. Everything. Rage. Shame. Grief. The bone-deep kind of heartbreak that doesn't just hurt, it hollows you out. And then I thought of Jordan. Not just what he did to me, but what he didn't do. He didn't run when I confronted him. He didn't even look afraid. You'd think a guy caught with another man's wife would at least flinch. But no, he smirked. Like he knew she was never mine to begin with. That was the moment I realized something. This wasn't just betrayal. It was calculated. She had been planning this. Hell, maybe she was waiting for me to find out. Maybe she wanted me to see it so she could finally be the victim she always painted herself as. I wasn't going to let that happen. The next day, I went to the bank. The joint account? Emptied the day after court. She had been faster than I thought. My name was already off the car title. Insurance switched. Utilities rerouted. She'd prepared her exit with military precision. What she hadn't prepared for was that I had backup plans too. I had photos, messages, call logs. I had proof she'd been seeing him for over a year, while telling me she was at women's retreats and spiritual cleanse weekends. She even lied about being pregnant once. I remember her crying in the bathroom, holding her stomach like it was some kind of sacred thing. Turns out, it was a decoy, just another trick to keep me loyal while she played house with someone else. And I had the receipts. I met with my lawyer, Daniel. Good guy, quiet, smart, and when he saw the evidence, he just whistled low and said, "She's going to regret ever opening her mouth in court." Savannah thought the trial was over, but I had just started my own. I sent her a letter through my lawyer. Not an email, not a text. A cold, official envelope that said, "I'm not done with you yet." Inside were documents, lawsuits, evidence of her breach of prenup clauses, proof of defamation. She had spread rumors in our neighborhood, in her Instagram captions, even at her yoga studio. All lies. All punishable. Within a week, I got a call. Blocked number. I picked up and didn't speak. "Damon," she said, voice suddenly sweet again, like the venom had been rinsed out with desperation. "Can we talk? Please." I stayed silent. I didn't mean to hurt you like this. Things got messy, and I made mistakes. I was confused. Jordan, he wasn't even supposed to mean anything. Now that made me laugh. Confused, I finally said, Savannah, you weren't confused. You were calculating. You cheated, lied, faked pregnancies, humiliated me in court, and now that you realize you can't bleed me dry, suddenly you're remorseful? There was silence on the line. Then a whisper. I just want to fix things. Fix things. This woman thought she could fix a car crash with duct tape. You broke the last piece of me that believed in you, I said. You should have left quietly. Now you're going to leave with nothing. She tried to cry. She always could cry on command. I used to fall for it. I used to run to hold her when she cried like that. Not this time. I hung up. That night, I slept for the first time in weeks. Really slept. No nightmares. No replaying the moment I found them. Just darkness. Peaceful, silent darkness. Because for the first time since this mess began, I was finally waking up. 2 days later, she showed up at my apartment. I heard the knock and knew it was her before I even opened the door. It was the kind of knock only someone entitled would use. Quick, sharp, like the world owed her attention. I didn't answer at first. Just stood behind the door, heart steady. I had no interest in seeing her face again, but part of me wanted to look into her eyes when I told her she didn't matter anymore. She knocked again. Then a pause. Then a soft, Damon, please. I opened the door just enough to see her. She looked like hell. Smudged mascara, hair in a messy bun, hoodie too big for her shoulders. No makeup. That alone told me something was off. Savannah didn't leave the house without a full face unless the world was collapsing. What do you want? I asked flatly. Her lips parted, but she hesitated. For the first time, she looked unsure. Scared, even. I need to talk. Please. Just 5 minutes. You've had 5 years, I said. And you spent the last one lying with your legs open. She flinched like I'd slapped her. I deserve that, she whispered. I know I do. She tried to push past me, but I didn't move. I stood there, filling the doorway, unmoved. She sighed. I lost my job. Jordan left. My parents aren't talking to me. I have no money. And there it was. The truth. Not love. Not guilt. Not regret. Survival. She didn't come back because she missed me. She came back because her little fantasy crashed into a wall and she had nowhere else to go. Do you think I care? I said, voice like ice. Do you think you can burn down my house, piss on the ashes, and then come crawling back when your matchbook ran out? I made a mistake. No, I cut in. A mistake is forgetting to text back. A mistake is crashing a car. You made a choice. Every night you laid in bed with him. Every time you told me you loved me, then turned around and lied. Tears welled in her eyes. Crocodile tears. I'd seen them before. She always cried when the mask slipped. Just let me in, Damon, she said, voice shaking. I don't know where else to go. I let the silence stretch. Then I stepped back, just slightly, and nodded. Her eyes lit up. And then I pulled out a manila envelope from the hallway table and handed it to her. What's this? She asked, blinking. Eviction notice, I said. For the condo I let you use after the trial. That's done. You've got a week. After that, your stuff's on the street. Her hands trembled as she opened the envelope. You can't do this. Oh, but I can. And I will. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me anymore. Like I'd become someone else. Maybe I had. She tried one last time, reaching out to touch my chest. Please, Damon. You're not this cold. I looked down at her hand like it was something foreign, then looked her straight in the eyes. You told the court I was just a workhorse, I said quietly. Well, even workhorses know when to kick. I closed the door in her face. Did I feel good? No. I felt clean. Later that night, I sat on my balcony with a whiskey in hand, watching the skyline blink like slow-motion fireworks. It was the first time I could breathe. Really breathe. No tension in my jaw. No weight on my shoulders. The phone buzzed once, her name lighting up the screen. I stared at it until it stopped. Then I blocked her. Not just her number. Everything. Email, socials, mutual friends. I burned the bridge down to the foundation and pissed on the soil. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Heartbreak doesn't end with revenge or some dramatic courtroom moment. It ends with peace. And peace comes when you stop needing an apology that will never be honest and start building a life where you don't need them at all. A week passed. Quiet, steady, no drama. Just silence. The kind of silence that used to scare me. Now, it felt like armor. I'd wake up, Make coffee without walking on eggshells. No fake good morning kisses. No side eyes while she scrolled through her phone at breakfast. Just me. And for the first time in years, that was enough. Until her mother called. I let it ring the first time. I didn't know that woman anything. She had sat in court while Savannah dragged my name through the mud and said nothing. Smirked, even. She was cut from the same fabric, same tone, same cold manipulation, just aged. But when she called again 5 minutes later, I answered out of curiosity more than respect. Damon, her voice cracked. I'm sorry to bother you, but something's wrong with Savannah. I didn't say a word. She's not well, her mother continued. She's been drinking a lot, sleeping in her car. She lost everything. I told her she had to leave my house. She showed up drunk last night, screaming about how she made a mistake, how Jordan used her and dumped her. She's falling apart. I waited, because I knew what was coming next. She needs help. Maybe she needs you. There it was. The hook. The bait. No, I said. Damon, I'm not the cleanup crew anymore. Her mother went quiet. Then, bitterly, she still loves you. I almost laughed. She loved what I gave her. She loved control. She loved being worshipped. That's not love. That's power. She's still my daughter. And she's still your problem. I hung up. I didn't feel good after that. I felt heavy, but I wasn't stupid enough to feel guilt. That wasn't my burden anymore. A few days later, I got a message from an old friend, Kyle. We hadn't talked much since Savannah started isolating me from the people who actually gave a damn about me. Bro, he wrote, I saw your ex at Mason's bar last night. She was a mess, trying to start a fight with some girl. It was ugly. I read the text and stared at it for a long time. Not because I missed her, but because I couldn't believe how far she'd fallen in just a few weeks without my stability. That's what I had been to her. A crutch. A safety net. The guy who always had her back while she stabbed mine. I didn't reply. What was there to say? Let her drown in the mess she made. I wasn't throwing her another rope. Not after what she did to me. Not after what she said to me. But that's when the dreams started. Not nightmares. Not exactly. Just moments. Vivid. Too real. Her laugh when we first met. The way she used to wear my hoodie when she was cold. That look she gave me when I proposed. The one I thought was love. Waking up after those dreams felt like getting sucker punched by a ghost. But I didn't give in. Every time I felt that pull, nostalgia, regret, weakness, I'd open the photos. The ones I took the day I caught her with Jordan. Her on top of him, the condom wrapper on the nightstand, the wine stain on my pillow. That was my medicine. My reminder. And just when I thought she was finally done trying, she showed up again. Not at my door this time, but at my job. She waited outside the building, makeup smeared, hair a mess, standing in the cold like some broken version of the queen she used to pretend to be. Damon, she said, stepping in front of me as I walked toward my car. Please, just hear me out. I looked past her. You're trespassing. Just 2 minutes. I exhaled. You got one. She wrung her hands. I'm sorry. I know I can't fix it. I know I don't deserve anything. But I can't stop thinking about us. About what I did. I didn't realize what I had until I destroyed it. Jordan's gone. Everyone's gone. I don't have anyone. That's because you used everyone, I said. You drained people dry, Savannah. And now you want sympathy. Her lip trembled. I miss you. No. You miss the version of me that let you get away with anything. Tears rolled down her face, but I didn't move. You told the world I was a workhorse. Guess what? I finally stopped carrying you. She tried to speak again, but I got in my car and shut the door. And this time, I didn't look back. The next day, I changed my number. No warning, no announcement. Just vanished from her radar entirely. I didn't post about it, didn't tell mutual friends. I just deleted her from the map of my life. It felt like closing the lid on a coffin. Final, quiet, necessary. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was healing. In that silence, I got my life back. Piece by piece. I started going back to the gym, not to punish myself like I used to when I was trying to be enough for her, but because I wanted to. I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years. Guys like Kyle, who never judged me, even when I ghosted him for the woman who'd eventually gut me. We went out for drinks one night, and he said, "Man, I thought you were lost forever. Glad to see you walking with both feet again." I laughed, and it felt real. Not forced. Not like something I did to cover pain, but like a man who finally stepped out of a tunnel and saw the damn sun again. I got promoted at work. My boss noticed I was sharper, more focused. He didn't ask why, and I didn't explain. But I knew it. When the emotional cancer gets cut out of your life, everything starts functioning better. Meanwhile, I heard whispers about Savannah. She got fired from another job. She tried living with a friend, got kicked out. Jordan apparently left town. Word was, he'd been cheating on her too, with a girl barely out of college. Her social media went dark. The filters couldn't fix what her life had become. I felt nothing. Not joy, not sadness, just indifference. And that's when I knew I had really won. Because anger still connects you to a person. But indifference? That's true freedom. One afternoon, months later, I was at a small backyard barbecue hosted by a coworker. Nothing fancy, just grilled food, music, and people laughing like the world hadn't fallen apart. That's where I met Brielle. She wasn't like Savannah. Not loud, not center stage, not the kind of woman who played people like chess pieces. She was quiet confidence, a smart smile. She asked questions and actually listened. When I made a joke, her laughter didn't sound like a performance. It sounded like music. We talked for hours. No expectations. No pretending. When she asked if I had ever been married, I didn't lie. I told her the truth, but not the whole tragedy. Just enough to explain the scar without bleeding on her. She nodded and said, "You seem like a man who's survived something big." I looked at her, really looked at her, and said, "Yeah, I did." Later that night, I went home and stood in front of the mirror. The man looking back at me didn't have bloodshot eyes or clenched teeth. He wasn't dragging chains of betrayal or heartbreak. He stood straight, calm, stronger. And then I remembered that day in court. Her voice, mocking, cruel. "You're like a workhorse, easy to ride." But I wasn't a workhorse anymore. I was free, and I realized something I never thought I would. I was grateful, not for her, not for the lies, but for the burn that forced me to rebuild, for the pain that stripped everything fake away and left me with the only thing I actually needed. Myself. If you're reading this and you're in that dark place, if you're wondering how the hell you got there, and if it'll ever stop hurting, listen. It will. But only if you stop giving CPR to something that's already dead. Walk away. Let the fire burn down the past. Then step into the ashes and start building. Trust me, there's life after her. And it's beautiful. 6 months later, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address, but the handwriting was familiar. Too familiar. It was from her. I almost tossed it straight into the trash. Almost. But something about the weight of it made me pause. I opened it slowly, unfolded the paper, and saw her words, scrawled in the same looping script she used to leave love notes on the fridge, back when everything was still fake and pretty. Asterisk, Damon. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from. I wouldn't blame you if you don't finish reading this. But I needed to say one last thing before I disappear from your life completely. I was awful to you. I lied. I cheated. I took everything you gave me and spat on it. There's no excuse. You were a better man than I ever deserved. And when I mocked you in court, when I said those things, I was trying to hurt you because seeing you strong terrified me. You gave me a life, Damon. A beautiful life. I didn't know how to value it. I won't bother you again. I just wanted you to know. I'm sorry. And I hope you found someone who sees you for what you really are, the kind of man people write stories about. Goodbye. Asterisk. I stared at the paper for a long time. Then I folded it. And burned it. Not out of anger. Not even out of bitterness. But because that chapter was closed. Done. She was a lesson, not a sentence. Some people come into your life to love you. Others come to wreck everything so you can rebuild better. She was the wrecking ball. I was the architect. I stood outside, watching the ashes swirl in the breeze, and smiled. Inside, my phone buzzed. A message from Brielle. "Hey you. Still up for that road trip this weekend?" I smiled wider. "Yeah," I texted back. "I'm ready." And I was. Ready for the next adventure. Ready for a life built on truth, not illusion. Love, not manipulation. Peace, not control. Because the truth is, being broken doesn't mean you're done. It means you're being remade. And sometimes, all it takes is walking away from the fire to realize you were the flame all along.